And good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Comic Book Roundtable. Tonight's episode is brought to us by Koestenbraumstar. I just kind of wanted to bring him up. He sounds like he's going to be leaving us. I hope that really isn't a permanent reflection, but I at least want to take a few moments to talk about him. This show wouldn't exist without Scott. He's the one that named the show. I just kind of took along and kind of inherited the show when it reached a point where it was a little difficult for him to host it for a while. I'd actually always kind of hoped that he would come back and be the host at some point, and I would get off the hook for that. But not that I don't mind hosting. I do. I enjoy it. I enjoy doing the show. That's why I still do it. But it really all comes down to Scott. You know, Scott was the main. Well, before this version of the show, the prior version of the show, he was a large portion of that. Certainly injected a lot of fun into it and whatnot. And so I just want to say thanks, Scott, if you happen to be out there watching. I think you're out floating around there somewhere. And I hope to have you back on the show, whether you say you're done or not. But at any rate. So tonight on the show, we have some familiar faces and some not as familiar faces because they haven't been around for a while. So we'll start out with introducing Devin Comics. How's it going, Devin? It's been a while.
It has been, and hopefully that changes.
Cool. We got you on tonight because, of course, we have important independent books to talk about that came out this week, right? Yeah. Okay, and also we have Sergeant America. Mike, how's it going today?
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And finally, Damien, Sleepy Reader 666.
I've got my scratch and sniff Guinness with me tonight.
Right on. I didn't bring any scratch and sniff, but you know we can't call it scratch and sniff because scratch and sniff is trademarked. It's called, what's it called? Rub and something, or I can't remember what they're calling it. Yeah.
Rub
but
and
technically, yeah, something like that. But yes, technically, scratch and sniff, I guess, is actually a trademarked thing. So they're calling it something else. And what? That's the number one. That's one of the highest pre-order books
right
ever or something like that is what they're saying.
Yeah, I wonder if it will really have the pot in it or the pot smell in it when it actually comes out.
I don't know. That'll be interesting. And do we think that the reason that it's got so many orders because people are ordering too, or the retailers are assuming people are going to buy too?
Seems like a plausible explanation to me.
You know, if you're a collector, you're going to scratch the daylights out of one, but have one to keep unscratched.
Also, because it had it had a news angle to it, so everyone's aware of its existence. That even if it doesn't end up having the pot in it, the rumor of the pot in it is what got it in all the front headlines.
Right.
And then everyone runs to their store and says, I got to get a copy of this. It's historical.
And this is the Harley Quinn annual. Is that what this is in?
Yes, the annual.
Okay.
I think it's $5 or $6.
I have to admit, I may go to the chain store and pick it up just out of morbid curiosity's sake to.
Me too.
Take away a
Just
fine
remember,
guess. I don't know.
Yeah, speculators have to buy 5. So.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's true. I don't know. It'll be interesting. You know, and speaking of news along those lines, you know, if these kind of stunts, gimmicks, whatever you want to call it, it also came out in the news that basically, once again, the month of September was very, very good to DC. They garnished the most sales and the most money with their lenticular covers and stuff like that. I would guess that that's why. Or it's a good event and people are really excited by it, so they bought more of the books. I'm not sure exactly how to interpret that.
Yeah, but it continues the trend of them having their biggest sales every September when they do this big event, which means we'll definitely be getting it every September because they make so much money.
Right, and I kind of suspected that anyway, just because of tradition says they're going to keep doing it. I would guess, but yeah, as long as it's making that kind of money, why wouldn't they? Obviously, my choosing not to buy a single DC book in the month of September really impacted their sales a whole lot, didn't it?
You're like the least important person to them in the world.
That's right. That's right. So why am I still a DC fan? That's crazy, right? But it was an interesting vacation. But actually, you know what? I'm glad to be back reading DC books. You know, while the September was going on, I didn't miss anything. I didn't feel like I was missing really anything.
Right.
Occasionally, some of those books sounded somewhat interesting. but getting my DC books this week and reading them was like, oh yeah, back on. So
There were
let's
some
talk.
good ones.
Let's talk about some of those DC books. What will we talk about? Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Let's talk Wonder Woman real quick first. I didn't buy. This is one of the covers. I didn't buy the monster covers. And most of my DC books are the variant monster covers because I like most of them. But I love this run so much that I didn't want to have a weird cover.
Right.
So I went with the regular Cliff Chang cover as opposed to the monster cover.
Cliff Chang covers are just so perfect.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine anything being better than his covers.
Yeah.
And this is a good monster cover anyway.
Well, right, because the firstborn is a monster.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? What did you think, Damon?
I thought it was a very, very good issue. I don't know how many of us out there have been watching Reader 1717's complaints about the current Wonder Woman run, where they've changed her powers to be derived from men, and I couldn't help but have her on my mind while I was reading this because she's kind of not totally rescued, but kind of helped out by the returning Ares briefly, and I thought that someone like Reader 1717 would say, well, that some female personage should appear to her rather than a male. Anyway, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying I thought of that while reading it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it didn't reduce my enjoyment of it, but it probably would have reduced her enjoyment of it. The art was just killer. I mean, Cliff Chang's always great, but he's kicked it up a higher notch. The coloring was kicked up a higher notch. I like this panel where the coloring drops out, too. But I was just stunned by how good the coloring was, actually. It's like they feel like they're drawing and coloring for history almost, in my mind.
Right. Well, I was just excited because it's actually been a while since we've had Cliff Chang do interiors. They've had lots of other people filling in on interiors.
Right.
So it's just been really refreshing to get a full book of Cliff Chang interiors again was really refreshing. I just love the little smart stuff that goes on in this thing. I mean, so do you think that Wonder Woman plays Strife at the end of this? I mean, not at the end of this, but to get her drug out of hell.
I assumed she was playing her. It's not.
I love that. I love that. That's just to me that was great. Her just being kind of this, smart enough to know, okay, I'm beat up bad enough that I'm not going to be able to drag myself out of where I'm at, and to basically, goat her into realizing that she was going to have this peaceful death and that wasn't going to be okay. So she grabs her and drags her off to the battlefield because there's no way she's going to allow her to just simply pass away,
Right.
kind of a thing. I just really liked all of that. I loved the. I'm just excited. That was an exciting issue. It didn't occur to me that the stone warrior in this was Mom. I don't know why that didn't occur to me.
Did she turn to stone last issue? I don't recall. I guess because it's been 2 months.
Well, they all got turned to stone. All these Amazons got turned to stone, right?
But then they got turned back.
Except for Mom. Mom never got turned back. Mom didn't exist.
I forgot that.
And Zeke does something.
Huh.
And so that's where it happens at. So that's pretty cool.
I loved the blind demigod. I can't remember his name right now. When he shows up, the guy he's not blind, but he covers up his worm-eaten eyes,
right,
to hide his powers or something. I just thought there's just tons of cool stuff in here. It's very bittersweet because I know it's the end of everything I like about Wonder Woman.
I'm really curious to see how it's all going to end.
And you said on Twitter this is going to come out at the end of October, the last of the Azzarello run?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll know pretty soon how the finale goes.
So let's talk Gotham Academy.
Did anyone else get it? I got it.
Yeah,
Mike, you
got it.
Seems I was the only one who didn't.
Well, I don't think I'll be getting issue 2.
What'd you think,
How do you guys feel about it?
I liked it. I mean, it took me a little bit to get past the cuteness. I think the Sleepy mentioned it about the animation seemed almost anime, or it was a it, like Frozen or one of the cartoons that have recently come out. I've definitely got that feeling that the artwork was crisp, but it was you know, somewhat childish, and the story seems like it's there. We just built up to it.
You mean it feels like we're building up to a story, or you feel like the story's already in progress when you start?
I think we were just built up to it. It's at that point where we're going to explore the area they want us to. They laid out all their background information, and I think now is the time where we are going to get the bread and butter of it. It was just a lot of build-up and a lot of questions raised.
Seem to be getting some feedback, and I'm just trying to figure out where it's coming from. I don't know if it's Damien, if it's your computer we're hearing ourselves. I'm hearing myself back while I'm talking.
Oh, really? I'm not hearing any feedback.
I hear it too, but I can hear myself.
Close out some other browsers just in case.
Okay.
Did that?
Oh, he closed the
He might have
browser.
closed himself now.
He closed the browser that he was in.
And there was our echo, so.
Yeah, I think it's the apologies, everyone, because I'm sure everyone was hearing that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, it was interesting. I mean, I liked the artwork. It did really feel like a Disney or Pixar art, and the character Olive, I haven't quite grown on her yet, but it seems a little fluffish, but I think I can get past it. I'm going to give it a couple issues.
I'm getting a message from Damien right now. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to re-invite Damien here. I liked. I have mixed feelings about the book. It does have kind of a. It does have kind of a. The art is kind of reminiscent of like cells from like a cartoon or whatever.
Yeah.
Large portions of it, the way it's colored. So I do agree. To me, that's not my favorite kind of a thing as far as that goes. I mean, I like the characters, the way they look themselves and stuff. I really do think it's the coloring. If anybody watched Damien's Batman video on, he talked a little about this, the fact that the way the coloring is laid down, it's almost like it's in layers, and it feels like they're a cell over the top of over the top. So I don't know if that's if that's really how the process is, but it does have that kind of sense to it. The only thing really with the coloring that really bugs me though is they chose to use a texture for the school uniforms instead of actually drawing it in. So
Right.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what direction the girls' skirts are. The pattern is exactly the same. It doesn't matter if the skirt's folded, wrinkled, whatever. It's still that plaid, and that's all it is. I mean, that's an easy coloring technique. It's just one of those things that bothers me. It feels lazy, to me, I guess. When nothing else is colored like that, so that kind of frustrated me. I actually liked the story. To start out with, I didn't, but by the time I'd finished reading it and kind of thought about it, I actually do. I do like the story. I like the introduction. I mean, obviously, there's a lot to these people that we don't know. What seems to be our main character, Olive. What is her name?
Silverlock.
Silverlock. There's obviously something going on with her. She obviously has some sort of psychosis when it comes to Batman. Beyond just being irritated at the fact that the bat symbol is flying every night. So something happened last summer that we don't know about yet, and I'm assuming we'll get to know that. So I'm curious about that. I didn't need to be told that, I guess. what that exactly is. I'm curious to know what it is.
I assumed one of her parents is a supervillain, but I tried Googling her and couldn't find any supervillain with a Silverlock as a last name.
And after your video, yeah, I wiki checked it, and I couldn't find anything either. So.
Yeah, neither could I. Because it didn't occur to me to think that that might be the case. But that does make a certain amount of sense that somehow she's obviously had some bad exposure because of her reaction is to curl up in a ball and go get away from me if she thinks Batman's coming.
And Bruce Wayne is paying for her tuition, so that means he knew something about her situation to help her out, perhaps.
Well, yeah, she's gotten some Bruce Wayne grant of some sort, right? Right. So she obviously has fallen on bad times in some sense or another. I thought that was interesting, but I like her as a character. I mean, because she seems, despite feeling like she doesn't belong, she obviously is a person of action. You know, she takes charge when she needs to. So I like that with the character. I like Maps, the secondary character. I is an amusing, younger sister to her kind of boyfriend that she has, that she's planning on breaking up with but hasn't. But obviously they've got a strained relationship too, just because of how little interaction there was between them. I don't know. I haven't gotten a chance to have my 14-year-old daughter, who's really into manga and stuff like that. I haven't had a chance to have her read it yet because I'll be curious to see what she thinks of it. I think she's gonna like it, but I could be wrong. You got the whole ghost mystery thing that's in it and stuff. I don't know. I thought it was not like I'm not blown away. I'm not blown away by it, but I think it's an enjoyable comic and could be fun. It doesn't. I've been kind of talking about maybe this is one of the possibilities of DC's answer to the Ms. Marvel that Marvel has going. It didn't hook me immediately like Ms. Marvel did. It didn't have this immediate freshness about it that book captured. But I do think the tone of this book, it still has the Gotham tone to it, right? Doesn't it? I mean, it still has kind of a dark-ish kind of a...
If you're not counting what it actually looks like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, even the background is dark and dreary. The buildings are falling apart. There's ghosts.
Well, yeah.
I mean, yeah, they themselves are more of a fresh-faced characters. But I mean, so it fits within the blanket of being Gotham.
And have they ever talked about Gotham Academy in any other Batman books?
Not to the best of my knowledge. I mean, if somebody's out there who's who's heard of it before, let me know, because I hadn't heard of there being I didn't even realize that Bruce even went to a school like that. I mean, I guess it makes sense that he would go to an academy, but beats me. But I think it's going to be a successful book just because of it has that kind of Harry Potter kind of a feel to it. I think that is going to appeal to people.
Really, I feel like it's going to flop, but of course I didn't. And having the Harry Potterness to it is not enough in my mind to make someone successful. To me, the longer I think about it, the less was going on, and I don't think people are going to get hooked by this book and feel like they have to keep getting each issue. And unless a different age demographic discovers it, I think it'll also have problems because of that.
I think
time will tell.
I think number 2 is definitely what's going to tell, at least for me, because, do we see more of whatever the creature is, the ghost, whatever, and how much do they start using other characters, or is this going to be so Olive-centric that she has to be this phenomenal character?
Right. She doesn't have the Kamala Khan appeal to me.
No. Yeah.
For instance.
Well, because she's less the average kid. I mean, to me anyway, that's one of the things it's appealing about Kamala is, despite I mean, she obviously doesn't have the same background as me, but she seems like a normal person, living a normal life until this stuff happens to her. Whereas
there's that, and she's extremely well written.
Yeah, and clearly, these characters right off the at least the main character right off the bat is not living the normal. Kind of a normal life, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Well, automatically you're not living a normal life, I guess, if you're going to Gotham Academy. Yeah, I don't know. My gut feeling is it's just not going anywhere very fast, and I think comics lose readers quickly unless they find a different audience.
I think the gravitational pull of wanting this comic to be successful by enough people will keep this comic book around for quite some time.
Okay, well, we'll see.
I
almost want to bet money with you, but
I think that we'll talk off screen. I think that there is a vocal enough fan base out there that will keep the book alive until it actually has a real audience. I think there's enough people out there who are excited by the idea, if not the execution, to maintain the book for a healthy period of time.
Until Bleeding Cool starts a rumor that it's canceled.
Right, and then it'll be done. But, yeah. But I think that that's going to keep it around, because I don't know that the sales of Ms. Marvel for that first issue were huge right to start out with. You know, that first week, I don't think that's when it sold. It was after that people started coming back to it. So we'll see. You could be right. Like I said, I don't think it's nearly as strong a book as what Ms. Marvel is, but I think there's a desperate fan base out there that wants something different than everything else, and this is a little bit different than everything else that's out there. And I think that'll keep it around for a while. What else do we want to talk about DC-wise? How about Justice League 3000? Did you get Justice League 3000, Damien?
Yes, I did. It was very good, and where's my copy? I think I may not have my copy with me, but it surprised me because the story ended.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the bad guys. A lot of comics these days, they just sort of go on forever.
Right.
So I was shocked, and at the end they say, now we need to build a headquarters.
Right.
I was really happy that I'm sure some villains will come back eventually or whatever, but it was a clear closure to the storyline so far.
Yeah.
Only 10 issues.
10 issues. It makes you wonder if they went, okay, we're going to write this full arc. We're going to have it have a true ending, just in the off chance the book doesn't take off.
Right.
We're not left with kind of some sort of a soft landing somewhere. They in this issue they clearly fight the bad guys and they clearly beat the bad guys. I mean they become the Justice League and they roll the bad guys and win the day. And you're right. That I was tickled to death by that too. It was like, oh my gosh, it ended and it really basically says the end. Yay, we won.
Right.
And then it opens it up to what we could do next.
Further adventures. It was more like the ending of a comic book from the 70s or something.
Right. And it stays a fun book. The characters are fun. They simply beat the people they beat, but it felt right and worked. And
yeah, they earned their ending. Even though they at first seemed like unbeatable foes, they worked out ways to beat them, and it all made sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's that robot character, or not that computer character. I can't remember what.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on what his name is right offhand.
He kind of disappeared at the end of the battle, so I imagine he could be
still
a problem.
He's stuck in somebody's
implants.
Right, he downloaded himself into somebody's implants, so he's stuck in whichever person that was. Stuck himself.
But would he download all of himself, or would he just download a copy?
I don't know. So yeah.
I sort of look forward to him coming back soon, perhaps as a threat.
Yeah.
And there's certainly all kinds of interesting character things have been set up, along with it being very funny, so that there's plenty of through lines to continue into the next adventure. Right. But it is a really nice closure to an adventure.
And of course, coming up, right, we're going to get. It's already been aired out there, and a lot of people are.
Booster Gold and Blue Beetle.
Booster Gold and Ted Kord, the Blue Beetle, are going to be in the book, at least for an issue. And we've been told by Geffen that this is not like these characters are DNA spliced with a volunteer to kind of make these kind of bastardized versions of all the heroes. These literally are Booster Gold and Ted Kord.
Right.
Somehow they got themselves frozen, literally cryogenically frozen or something like that, and after all this time, they get broken out, and so it's them not having all this time pass, so it'll be fun because they were fun characters. Despite I know there's a lot of people out there in the YouTube community and whatnot who badmouth Booster Gold and can't stand him and whatnot. Those two characters together in the Justice League were really fun characters. They were the Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid kind of guys. They were the male version of Thelma and Louise or whatever, and they were just a lot of fun. And
will they steal the comic book away from the current characters?
No, I don't think so, because I think they'll be hilarious interacting with these kind of screwed up versions of all these people. Because I mean, they all have, they have these idyllic versions in their heads of what these heroes should be like, right? And them interacting, I think, will be hilarious. The clash of that whole thing. And
it will be people who remember what these heroes really were like back, were really themselves.
Right. Like, I can't wait to see Booster Gold's reaction to the fact that Superman can't fly, for instance. It's gonna be pretty funny, but we'll see. But I'm looking forward to it. That's a fun book. The better of the Justice League books, in my opinion.
So, to change subjects, did Grayson have the first mainstream comic with a splash page of an orgasm?
I haven't had time to Google that.
It's the first time I've seen. I mean, I've certainly seen orgasms in comic books, but not on a splash page in a superhero mainstream comic book.
Yeah, as she gasps, Dick. With the wonderful logo underneath it, the gun goes off. I mean, you can't deliver a more Freudian page than this. So, it's funny and all, and I don't mind a few good Dick jokes. Because they're gonna be out there. I mean, that's just a given because we're all immature. But at some point they have to quit mining that, don't they?
Right. They need to back off of it for a while after this issue, I think.
So this issue actually wasn't written by Tim Seeley. This issue was written by, he plotted it, but Tom King did the script. So
and Tom King also did the Future's End script.
Oh, okay.
A lot of us thought was very good. A few people hated it, but.
I'm confused by this issue because before this, Dick has always been Agent 37. And in this one, they know he was Nightwing and that he was a superhero.
I think I saw something before that implied they knew he was Nightwing also, but it doesn't make sense to me. If they know that, why would they trust him at all? And would they be able to make a connection between him and Bruce Wayne?
Oh, and all the other superheroes that they're know all that information on, or is that all secret to him that they don't know that he knows that they've got that kind of information? I was really confused.
We don't know that because we're always shown it, but he's not there.
Right. Because I thought he was truly a mole. I mean, he is a mole, obviously, but I mean, I thought he was a mole to the degree that they didn't know who he was. I mean, because them knowing he's Nightwing, I would think they would treat him completely differently than him just because that first issue where he's just Agent 37 and the Bertinelli character, the way she treats him and whatnot, and even in the second issue did not feel like, and here we are on 3, didn't feel like that he was being that.
I thought they already knew he was Dick Grayson, and I always wondered about that, but maybe this is the first time we've heard them call him that.
I don't. I'm going to have to go back and read issues, I guess, because I missed that somewhere where they knew who he was, because that just seems strange.
Maybe you're right. Other than that, it was a very cool issue, I thought.
Did you? I see. I didn't care for it.
Oh, okay. I liked the villain with his eyes and his guns. And I liked the way they showed the spy operations, and the way they coordinated it and everything. I enjoyed all of that. How come you didn't like it?
Well, maybe the commentary on guns that felt like that was in it. Maybe I don't know that I was interested in that. I have my own views on guns, so I don't know that. This felt like a. It felt like I guess a one and done issue, in the fact it didn't feel like it added anything to the larger story.
But
other than the last pages.
The last pages. But isn't that how every issue has been? A little bit of development in the larger story, but mostly just the development of Grayson and his moral quandaries in each mission.
I guess maybe, but it felt like that in the other issues we were building the secondary characters and casts around him. Clearly we aren't in this issue because those people are dead by the end of the issue,
That's
right?
true. It's a bit more of a fill-in because there's no Bertinelli or whatever her name is.
Well, yeah, except for at the very end where they add that little bit at the end of it. And I just wondered because we had somebody else writing the script, if that's why the story was this way, as opposed to being part of the greater picture. It told its own little story.
That could be. I mean, this guy's a co-plotter all along.
Oh, has he been?
Yeah.
Oh.
In every issue, but so now counting Future's End, Tim Seeley's written 2 scripts and he's written 2 scripts, but they both are co-plotters. At least that's how I've remembered.
I don't know. Maybe I just don't like Dick Grayson. Maybe that's my problem. I just have a hard time. That's it, I guess. I just have a hard time staying excited in his books. I mean, I read Nightwing up for almost a year and dropped it because I just couldn't really get excited. The only time I've been excited by Dick Grayson is when he was Batman. Pre-52. I liked him then, but...
So for you, it's all the costume.
Maybe that's what it is. I need my guys dressed in more leather or something. I don't know. I don't know. But, well, it felt like he had a greater response as Robin or Nightwing or otherwise. I don't know.
Well, I can see it's a matter of taste.
Yeah. I like the art. That's why I decided I was ultimately going to get it in the first place, because I like Jennings' art. So. Right. Detective Comics.
Speaking of beautiful art.
Yeah, and this is the monster cover, of course. Becky Coolin.
Yeah, I got the regular cover, which is a pretty Halloween-y cover anyway.
Well, I was torn. Because I like him in that walking down the... I really love this book. These guys, I mean, I know the story isn't like incredibly complex. It's decompressed. It's simply mostly just a setting and a whole bunch of awesome art. I'm okay with that because the artwork through it was amazing. The coloring was amazing on it.
A lot of people have pointed out that it reminds them of The Strain, which is now a TV show.
Sure.
And before that was a series of novels and a comic book. But also what's in The Strain is kind of plays off of Dracula, really.
Right. Well, but the opening...
So it's a classic horror trope to have kind of the plague ship arrive in port.
Right.
And bring monsters.
Yeah. And that's basically how the TV version of The Strain anyway starts out with the plane landing and everybody in it being dead, which is what happens in this. But really it's mostly about the art.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot. I mean, my main take on it is it's just like a classic Batman story. It could take place anytime in Batman's history. It would be done the art would be a little different each time, but I would be I guess.
Right. I would be okay with Detective Comics always being that. It just being Batman stories and not having to be tied quite so hard like the Batman is into the continuity of the rest of the DC universe. Not necessarily out of continuity, but just be classic tales of Batman doing Batman things. And that
just
would be
a story from sometime in Batman's career when he had an adventure. Yeah.
Right. And that would be great.
I agree. That would be very good.
So
this
many
Batman titles.
This is just full filling in, or is it 3?
It's 2 issues, I understand.
Okay.
It does feel like it could be 3 from the slowness of the story.
The setup of this one, but pretty cool. Swamp Thing? What are we thinking on Swamp Thing?
Did either of you guys get it? I feel like this is the Travis and Damien show.
It's because
Damien DC.
Go ahead. No, sorry.
These horrible DC horrors that we are in.
Well, it was good. I don't really want another kingdom like the green and the red and the gray, but it was done well. It's fun.
And the whatever, right? Yeah, that's what it was for me. Looks beautiful. It's well written, but yeah, there has to be something else to do. I mean, I would think, besides just the Avatar. But that's all Swamp Thing has been, right? With a very few exceptions of stories, even from Scott Snyder's run, it's all been about one Avatar fighting another Avatar, right?
True. You know what I realized reading this issue, what I liked and what I missed here in Charles Soule run was that he was slowly building up a new community around Alec Holland. But in the last few issues, he's been tearing that community apart.
Right.
So like that that good ex-Avatar has gone back into the green.
Right.
I think, has the wolf been killed? Oh, he's been turned into a monster that I think was then killed.
He was killed, right.
And I can't remember what happened to Lady Weeds.
I think she was done in also, yeah.
So kind of Charles Soule is maybe undoing everything he did before he leaves, and then the next writer can start from scratch again?
I don't know, because he had a big plan in place before suddenly the exclusive with Marvel came up. Because I talked to him in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
You know, at a little bit of length about this book, because of course I was always concerned about the fact that it's low sales, what's going to happen, and him saying DC viewed it as a legacy book, it wasn't going anywhere, and that he has like, I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 plot lines all planned out that he thought were going to be all great and whatnot. And so I don't know, unless he just suddenly radically changed that.
Maybe he always never wanted that group of characters he created to be a permanent thing, but I definitely am sad about the going of that, and that was one of the aspects of his run that I really enjoyed, was that. So yeah, I'll definitely read till the end of his run and see who the next writer is, but I'm a little less excited over Swamp Thing than I was earlier in his run.
Yeah, because you're right. We just feels like we're repeating the same theme over and over again. At some point, he needs to do something else, or they need to explore some other strife in his life or something.
Right. And knowing he's gone over to Marvel, you kind of wonder if he doesn't want to put a lot of energy into new plot ideas anymore for DC, because he's, got to please Marvel more.
Right. I don't know.
Well, you guys have been talking about ones that you liked. How about we talk one that we don't like?
I just assumed I wouldn't like it and skipped it.
Yep, yeah. I didn't pick it up. I chose not to. Go ahead.
Yeah, Green Arrow, just to start out, it's not properly named. This is Oliver Queen. Over more than half the pages are more about Oliver Queen and what he's doing. Because it's all about like his clinic that he's running. All of a sudden he's got all this money that I don't know where it showed up after the Outsiders and Richard Dragon destroyed his whole empire and
right.
Komodo. All that was destroyed. Now he is the third richest person again. Lex Luthor and Batman and Bruce Wayne both show up, and they're talking with Ollie about the three of us join up. We're the biggest power in the world. There's all these things we can do. We can cure cancer. We can do all this stuff. And Ollie is talking to Bruce like, you don't know anything. You're just some head of a community or head of your company. I bet you can't even name one other person in your company. And he's like, Lucius, and Ollie stops and he goes, stop, not Lucius Fox, anyone else. And he turns to Luthor and goes, and Luthor, you're just pure evil. And so they go walking out of his office. And it was just like, that's the story you guys want to tell, is this corporate, espionage, and evidently Ollie doesn't know that Bruce is Batman, so, I'm lost in a lot of this because, they're rewriting this 52 continuity, and I don't know who's supposed to know who's secret. You guys kind of talked about it with Grayson, and I felt the same with this. And that was the biggest, most glaring thing. Right at the beginning, he's stopping some armored car robbery, and I mean, it's pretty pedestrian art. It's nothing special, but he's like, after Darkseid invaded and Forever Evil, and I'm like, so the two things that this comic book ignored, like right at the beginning, he's now basically wiping out all of Lemire's and Sorrentino's, he's putting all that away. Like, that wasn't important. What's really important is the DC, editorial. That it's all about the big invasions. It's all about the crossovers. And he's already mentioning to Diggle, well, your sister is gone into training, and Fifth and Naomi have quit, so it's just you and me. And so, I mean, basically, yeah, they just push it right into you. It is the show.
So
it's a total reboot.
Basically, yeah.
No consideration of the people who've been reading previously.
Yeah, it was basically a slight nod, and then all of it is, oh, goodbye, if you liked it, guess what? We're changing tracks.
So
yeah.
So they are getting rid of Naomi, which is kind of the love triangle girl that was in the comic book they were using, and are going to replace her with Felicity Smoke, which is she's gonna fill the exact same role that Naomi did.
Yep, Miss Smoke is introduced at the very last page, where she tells him, "I'm here to kill you." And as he walks in, he's entered some big warehouse, and he opens the door, and there she is in front of her screens, and she was like, "And I was hired to kill you." And
that's a real bummer, because I mean, I like the Felicity Smoke character in the TV show. She's a great character there.
Yeah.
This comic, because there was already a character that kind of filled that role. She just wasn't name recognizable to the masses, I guess. But it's not like people who watch the TV show are going to suddenly go run out and buy the Green Arrow comic anyway, or they would have already bought it, right? I mean,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there is a few people who are ecstatic over this issue that I've seen on YouTube. Comic Book Uno, who loves the show Arrow and also reads comics.
So
she loved this.
So they need to read the Arrow comic book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they need to stay away from my comic book.
Yeah.
Too late now. It wasn't their decision. It was DC's decision.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I'm not reading it.
Yeah. I will probably give it one more issue, and then I'm probably dropping it from my pull list. Every once in a while I can flip and see if it's worth picking up. I think the only thing is the writers can now use superheroes and and the Green Arrow together, which they kind of can't in the show, or they downplay it too much. So.
Right. Well, now the part of what you were talking about there, I'm perfectly fine with. I'm perfectly fine with Oliver taking the stance of, you guys are a bunch of corporate monsters that want nothing to do with you, because that has always been that for a long time. That has basically been the original Oliver Queen stance. He was always, I mean, he was a rich guy himself, but he was always sticking it to the man. He was always the kind of lefty, against the corporate monster and all that kind of stuff. So them reincorporating that back into the character, I think, is a perfectly fine and good thing to do. I mean, that's something that I actually enjoyed about the old Oliver Queen. But this moving it that much closer to the TV show, for me, is unfortunate, and I'm once again not reading my favorite character's comic book because they can't just write the comic book. It seems, I don't know. But yes, you're right. I've seen other people who are excited about the book too and think it's great.
All right. And I like Green Arrow, and I buy the book Green Arrow for, I understand that it's Oliver Queen and he puts on the uniform, he's Green Arrow. But if you gave me a Batman book that was more than 50% Bruce Wayne, I'm not buying the Bruce Wayne book. And that's really what I felt about this one. It was the Oliver Queen book. Here's Oliver Queen. I read, this is issue 35. I know who Oliver Queen is. I don't need, but it's because they're changing who he is. I mean, yes, they are making him a little more traditional. It made him almost 10 years older, it felt like. So
was he doing salmon ladders in it?
No. I mean, they did show him he's injured, so he takes off his shirt. He does have all the wounds, like on the TV show. Yeah, they were just shy. I'm sure Salmon Ladder is next issue. But
okay.
It'll be there, especially with Felicity. He'll kiss her, do the Salmon Ladder, and then go to a corporate meeting.
Awesome.
Well, I'm very glad you read this for us, Mike.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm glad you took the lumps for sure.
Yeah.
So, quickly, Batman Eternal. I did not like this issue at all.
I agree. I didn't care for the art, and I hated the fact that it ended with Joker's daughter. I hate that character. I have always hated that character. So it was just like, oh, yay, something to make me not like it anymore.
Joker's daughter with Fat Alfred.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, I actually generally I like Guerrero's art. A fabulous run on Scalped and stuff. I don't think superheroes is their strong point. You know, does very well at drawing the characters that they do, but not strong in, I didn't think, in this issue. Last issue I didn't mind it so much. This issue looks a lot weirder than I thought, and inconsistent than last issue.
I wonder if he was just really rushed, pulled in at the last minute or something, since he's not normally a superhero artist.
Yeah.
And the coloring really annoyed me, and the writing was just...
It was Tinian. This just screamed.
This was
Tinian.
the kind of writing I expect from Tinian. He's been a bit better on most of the journal.
Right. I mean, I do appreciate the fact they kind of tied up some loose ends in it as far as the story goes itself. I hated the spoiler stuff. That character has just become ridiculous to me. I like spoiler, but her introduction in this is just, since she's put on the purple costume, has just been kind of ridiculous. She's gone from scared girl running for her life to now suddenly she's, the next Robin or what.
Right.
Yeah.
Any sense at all as far as that goes. I don't care for the characterization of Hush, and I guess last week we were picking on the book because they introduced Hush but didn't tell us anything about Hush, right? If you were a new reader and didn't have all this bat lore, who the hell is this character? Well, they clear that up for you in this issue, but they did kind of a hack job of it. I thought to me it just seemed really cheaply thrown in, like they suddenly went, oh crap, you know what? Maybe not everybody knows who Hush is, so we better throw a few pages in here to, of him running up a bridge shooting guns to let us know who that is or whatever. And They changed him. They changed him dramatically in this. I felt like now. I mean, I don't know. To me, he felt very different. He felt very cheapened in comparison to the whole Hush run and how he was in that, and how he was in the secondary story, that the Heart of Hush. Both those things, he was a much more dynamic character than they portray him in this. In this, he's portrayed as this kind of jealous,
right? Just kind of a loser, basically a loser who,
So,
and it doesn't seem at all shocking that he would have turned out to be a villain. Whereas I felt in the original Hush, Bruce Wayne was shocked that his old friend could become this villain.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It just. So, not that I'm like, oh my God, I'm not reading the book anymore, because obviously I'm going to keep reading. It's one issue. I would not, death sentence on it for that, but it really was. Whereas all of the issues up to this point, most of them I've really kind of enjoyed or had fun with, or, this one I really couldn't find any bright spots in it at all. So,
I've had a few others like this, so. Batman Eternal doesn't feel like it's going to be a top. Rise back up to the top for me ever.
And do we all think that Hush is the bad guy? He's the mastermind behind this whole thing, pulling all the strings?
I don't think so. I don't know. I didn't read the original. I didn't read Hush. I've never read Hush before, and so this was like, all right. I've heard from other people this is not really. It's the same character, but he's not written as well, and I don't know. He just seems like another pawn, really. How like with Falcone was.
Right. To me, it just seems too simple. It seems too simple that this is, and this is the midway point. Or am I right that this is kind of basically about the midway point of Batman Eternal?
Roughly.
So it just doesn't. To me, I guess it doesn't make sense that. And are we all thinking? Because Damien, I got from watching your video that you feel like that Hush is kind of in league with the stuff that's going on in Arkham because he sent Alfred to Arkham.
That was my assumption, but it could be wrong, I suppose.
Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure that was the case when I read it. I wasn't sure if it was just happenstance. I mean, what's the worst place you could send somebody? Is to Arkham, I would think. Anybody, that would be a horrible. I mean, I really get sent to Blackgate than get sent to Arkham if I'm going to get locked up someplace. And so I don't know. I wasn't sure if he just picked Arkham as a place to send him, or if there is a deeper connection, like you were saying, that you think that Hush is somehow in league with what's going on in Arkham, because that just seems way outside of Hush's league of manipulation.
Someone pointed out that some random doctor can't just walk into the hospital and say, "Okay, send this guy to Arkham."
Which, yeah,
it's just the typical thing of this Batman Eternal, where nothing, if you think about it too much, nothing in it works.
Right. They throw the logic away and just write in whatever they want to move the story wherever they want to move it to. Yeah.
They even have some of the Bat characters wonder, how come Gordon's not out of prison yet? And they should, I don't know. It was just kind of
this issue was
sloppily done.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. So, any other DC books you want to talk about?
Well, not in depth, but Future's End, we talked about, I think last week, about how it had gone downhill. That was just one issue. It's right back up to where it should be. This was a fantastic issue. So this remains the model of how to do a weekly series.
Yeah.
But I don't have any other big points to make about it. For those who like kids comics, Tiny Titans Return to the Treehouse #5 was really good. They're on Paradise Island, where the boys have to wear pink slippers so they don't touch the ground.
That's awesome.
And for some reason, Wonder Woman has the long pants, which I thought was funny. I'd forgotten about those long pants they gave her for a little while.
Oh, yeah. She's modest in the Tiny Titans. That's awesome.
Tiny Titans is just totally good. It's the best kids comic in a long, long time.
It needs to be weekly, though.
Anyone else read any other DC?
Nobody picked up Resurrection Man this week?
Oh, I would like to.
No, it was on the dollar wall. I got the first 8 issues, and I definitely wanted to thank Travis for mentioning it, because I probably would have just passed it over otherwise. So.
Yeah, I liked Resurrection Man. It was the first part of it was the ending of it when they finally decided they had to end. It got a little strange because they just kind of scrambled to trying to get it shut down. But a fun book. One of the odd of the New 52 books to come out that, of course, doesn't stand a chance when it's released on the same week that Batman and Superman is on. Forget it. Who's buying that because you only got so much money. So.
Yeah, I think of it as the New 52 that might have been.
Right, for sure. Any other DC news we want to talk about besides the wonderful sales that DC has got going on right now?
The T-shirts and what DC was thinking about with the. I thought it was just they seem to be having a poor marketing idea, and I'm surprised because when I go to buy cups and belts or whatever or notebooks, I see tons of DC stuff, and it seems like they're really good with marketing their stuff and getting it out there. I just picked that up. And so, I mean, I always find something fun. DC, a serving tray, glasses, and I don't see that from Marvel as much. But then they go and make some stupid decision with shirts or something like that.
It's not so much their decision. That's all licensed product. Basically, somebody's saying, "Hey, I want to do some shirts. Can I use your licensed thing? And I'm going to pay you X amount of money." And DC goes, "Yeah, sure." And they don't vet all of that stuff, I think, quite so closely. And I think they've pretty much come out and said, okay, I feel that's it's appropriate that the guys' shirts always tout them as being the heroes, and the girls are always subservient in some fashion or another. In the case of these shirts, it was the little kid stuff. It was the boys stuff was going up to be Superman or a hero, and the women's stuff was basically
training to be the wife,
Batman's wife or something like that. Not, I don't think there aren't plenty of people who would like to be Batman's wife, but I understand what it is about that that's not appealing. That makes perfect sense.
Even the little things, like there was the Superman Wonder Woman kiss,
right? And
they edited out her rope, and Superman was saying "I'm getting me some," or along that line.
I like. Did you see? Bill Sekowitz did a redid that picture.
No, no.
For sure. So he re-inked it. He re-inked that picture, and it's Wonder Woman giving him a hardcore right cross and half of his teeth flying out of his head. It's pretty funny. I would wear that in a shirt. But I have to admit, I would wear a shirt that says, Wonder Woman's husband in training. I'd be okay with that. Just saying.
All right.
So.
They did a pretty classy apology for it, and I think they're in the future probably going to put more of a clause that we have to vet what you put on your T-shirts after you license our characters. Hopefully they'll do that.
Yeah, I think so. Because there's actually been, I think it's funny that this got as much traction as it did, because there are Marvel shirts out there that have the exact same picture on them, like it'll have all the Avengers, traditional Avengers storming forward, and the male shirt the little boy's shirt says something along the lines of being a hero or something like that, and the girl's shirt says or hoping for a hero, whatever, implying that the guy's going to be a hero with the heroes and the girl's not. She's hoping to be saved by the heroes, and that's out there and hasn't gotten a whole lot of traction. So I don't know how much of that I want to level on conspiracy against DC, because it's just fun to pick on DC and their perceived issues with some of the stuff, and some of them are legitimate issues, and how much of that is whatever. So I mean, it's not like it's just one company. It's out there on both sides. So
it's kind of a sign that comic book stuff right now is just getting a lot more scrutiny than it normally did. Normally they probably just said, who will give us the most money to license them for T-shirts, and then no one even thinks about it again or something. And now everybody's looking at variant covers and all kinds of other things for what's going on here.
Yeah. Well, because the people who are reading comics are changing. I mean.
Right. And because I think the success of the comic book movies means the media will cover comic book news more.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. True. Well, let's move on to indie books, unless we've got other pressing conversations about DC, which I don't think we do. So what do we want to talk indie books? I got a few indie books. Okay, now I'm going to talk Fade Out. No, that's cool. We can talk Fade Out.
I really enjoyed this issue. I had not an epiphany. It occurred to me that this issue struck me as very melodramatic, and then what Ed Brubaker has a more like in Fatale, at least I haven't finished reading Fatale. When he has some supernatural or superhero element going on, he kind of tones back the melodrama. And I'm mostly thinking about the guy and his friend and his drunken friend and their big scenes in the cemetery and stuff. So it just feels like Ed Brubaker allows himself to be more melodramatic when he's not dealing with fantastic material. And I thought that was interesting. I still like it a lot.
I think that's a good observation, because you certainly get a lot more of that. That's what a large portion of this issue is about, is them kind of having a pity party between the two of them.
Right. And everyone being very upset at each other and stuff.
I love the feel and the look of the comic. I'm not some great person who knows a lot about what 1940-41 looked like, but it feels like an era. It feels like its own era. It captures all that really well. The art-wise, as far as that goes, the conversations seem to kind of feel like that to me. I love the moody coloring in the book.
Yeah, I love the coloring.
What's her name? Elizabeth.
Betty Brightweiser? The colorist? Or are you talking about a character?
Yeah. The colorist. She came on like midstream, I think, through the last book they were on, the Fatale, I think, is where she started coloring quite a bit. And I think she's a good match for them. I think her style works really well with Phillips, the way he inks and uses kind of a water brush to do some of his inking and stuff. It all matches up really well, right. I think.
And she did a different technique in the funeral scene where there was lots of overlapping colors, almost like shadows from leaves or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then in different scenes she uses different techniques of how she combines the colors.
Right, because someplace she's actually coloring things, and in some place she's coloring areas. It's like there'll just be a blob of blue where the sky kind of is, and a blob of green, and but it all seems to work really well. And I'm enjoying the story. I think it's going to be kind of a long, we're not going to get exposed to anything too much at any one time. I don't think in it. But I'm enjoying the ride.
Yeah. It seems like it's gonna be very slow to unveil the mystery and be more about the characters as so far. That's the way it feels.
Yeah, I feel more like I'm reading a book when I'm reading this, as opposed to lots of the way comic books are written, to where you have to have the cliffhanger at the end that makes you go, oh my gosh, I need to pick it up next week.
One of the mysteries to me is who actually had feelings for the dead starlet, and whose feelings are fake.
Right.
I'm not even totally sure what Charlie, the hero's feelings for her are yet. And I'm guessing his drunk friend Gil had some relationship with her, but I don't know what it was yet. So anyway, it's an interesting very layered, non-typical comics kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have to go.
Okay.
So I will watch the rest of the show tomorrow. Thanks a lot for having me on. See y'all, guys.
See you, Steve.
So let's talk Rat Queens. The only thing that frustrates me about this is the cover, because the cover's not by Upchurch.
Yeah. No. I when I saw the cover, I was like, that's right. That's what the cover was going to be. I didn't really care for it that much. It's not bad at all.
Right.
But it's just not what I was used to.
Right. So that, to me, that was, what's up with that? Opened up inside. Okay, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Because I really like the artwork. I like his style. It just works well. This was a fun issue because, of course, I was tweeting to you, Devin, oh boy, we're going to get the tentacle issue, right? Because the last issue ended with all these giant purple tentacles coming out of the sky, like it was some sort of Chthonian apocalypse. Yeah. And most of this story is kind of backstory of Violet, right?
Yeah. And the beard was majestic.
Yes. Yeah, it puts my beard to shame, so Violet's beard is better than my beard. Because, of course, Violet's a dwarf, so Violet has a beard. That was one of the. So that was one of the things about the comic going up to this point is that it was shocking that she had shaved her beard, even though we didn't realize when we first started, at least I didn't realize when we first started reading the character that she would have a beard. Mm-hmm. Her brother shows up like 3 or 4 issues ago and was like shocked that she shaved her beard and all this stuff. So we get that whole what kind of person she was before she became part of the Rat Queens. We get to see her inspiration to do the Rat Queens even. In there, she comes across another woman that's just a crotchety, middle-aged badass of a woman who's fighting amongst the with the men, kind of a thing. And as a lark, she shaves her beard because she just felt like shaving it that day, kind of a thing. And I loved her line right there when she's like, "Oh yeah, I just did all this stuff, and I'm gonna go out and kick these people's asses now." And her like, "Marry me," I don't know. It was really sweet, and I loved the way it ended too. The way it ended was really interesting. Was she just having a dream, or is this how she meets Hannah? I mean, while Hannah's being kind of the badass, necromancy queen that she is, did she actually reach the mirror and grab her, or is that just kind of her dream state? Because this ends with her being drugged through, I'm assuming, this awful battle, and and Hannah yelling at her, "Don't look back, don't look back," and she's dragging her along because obviously something bad has really happened. Yeah. For this battle. That was a cool way. That was a really cool way of telling one of the characters' backstory, so we finally get some back history to these people that worked within the story.
Yeah, I feel like with most other series, if you didn't have any kind of backstory on that character by issue 8, most people would be like, all right, this is kind of pointless, but I thought it worked really well because the first story arc, you're like, who are these people? And then there's badasses, and now they're livening up their history and delving into it, like with Dee's husband and now Violet's backstory. It'll be interesting to see how that is moving forward. And
Right.
I'm excited, and hopefully this issue 9 doesn't take another 2.5 months to come out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the. I mean, I know part of the delay. I think part of the delay was it was their time to take a break again. I think.
Possibly.
Was it?
I remember in the back, in the letters section, Curtis had a daughter, so
Right.
that definitely, like, I understand when it's delayed, it still sucks.
Yeah. 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 I'm sympathetic when it's a planned thing, or obviously something life changing happens to. But I think they're back on track now.
Yeah.
Definitely excited to get it and see what it goes and whatnot. I really wanted that battle, and now I'm still itching for that battle. I mean, I really enjoyed this. I love getting all that backstory on Violet because it was great. Because these are all really interesting characters. I want to know about all of how they came to be the Rat Queens. I just think it's interesting that, like I said, she meets that woman and she's got the freaking rat on her armor, and she's like, what, rat? Well, don't you know, rat is the idol of fear or terror or something like that. So you can see, okay, this is why they call themselves the Rat Queens.
Yeah.
Because I've always wondered why would 4 ladies decide to call themselves the Rat Queens? I mean, that to me that seems, I don't know. I don't know many guys that would name themselves the Rat Kings for that matter. So I was always kind of curious. So it's kind of interesting to get an added piece to the logic of why they are what they are and whatnot. Just a really fun book. If you like, if you like kind of somewhat or largely crude fantasy type things, where it's if you ever played D&D with your middle school or high school friends, this is it. They aren't dudes, but they certainly act like dudes in every way. They're and trade. Pick up the first trade. That's what I did. I picked up the first trade. I was kind of like, I don't know. Picked up the first trade, and after I picked up the first trade, I was like, damn, I wish I had picked this up in singles.
The first trade is excellent, and at Gotham Academy, I was surprised that Maps, who is Olive's friend, she has the D20 shirt on.
Right.
And so it was a little throw in there. So it was really good.
Yeah. Like I said, I was surprised when I first opened it up, and I'm like, why is the story going here? Because like I said, I've been itching for 2 months to have this battle to see how they're going to handle all this, and it did not happen. And then of course at the very, very end, they're being drugged through the battle.
Yeah.
So obviously something happened. Still on track to be really, really curious as to what that's going to be and whatnot. So.
Yeah. With like other books with like big delays or whatever, and you come back, it's like, all right, finally it's going to continue the story, and then it's something else that's not generally a good thing. And it was great in this. I was like, all right, worth it, worth the wait. I'm very happy with it. And I'm glad I was able to find that first issue. It was just sitting at my store. I was like, do you have Rat Queens? And it was like, yeah, it's right here. And I was like, yes. It was just sitting there like 2 months after it came out. So.
Oh, yeah. And see, that's why I ended up not getting the singles. I think I when I picked it, when I got the trade, obviously when it came out, but I think when I started looking for singles, it was on like 4 or 5. And I could get those issues easily, but I didn't really want to pay $20 or whatever it was on eBay for number 1. It just didn't seem like worth it. Yeah. So, still, it's a fun comic. Definitely didn't lose anything in that amount in that time away.
Yeah,
for sure. Any other indie books we want to talk about?
I only have one more indie book, and that's Doctor Who, 11th Doctor, number 3. Weird. This issue was weird as hell. No one here gets that, I'm assuming. I feel like I'm the only person who gets that anyway.
Yeah.
It's just continuing adventures of the previous Doctor
Smith
characters, and it's been interesting with the 2 series because I get both of them. I feel like the one following David Tennant, which is the 10th Doctor, I feel like that has a more cohesive story, and it's got a better story. But this series, the 11th Doctor one, the Matt Smith one, catches the character much better because he was a weird dude. He's just kind of out there, and it catches it very well. The 3 issues so far have been one and done stories. Like the first issue introduces you to him and the companion. Second issue, they go off and do something. It feels like an episode of the show instead of like a defined 5-6 issue story arc.
Oh, cool.
And so it's been interesting. This issue, his companion, I think her name's Alice. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. She was cleaning out her mother's house and found old records. And it's like, oh, my mom told me about this show back when she was younger in the 60s. And he's like, oh, let's just go back and see it. They go back, not what she expected at all. And then they end up going to 1931, and they meet Robert Johnson. And I thought it was pretty cool. So it was weird though. This issue, they go back, they meet Robert Johnson. It's like, oh, I know who you are. Robert Johnson knew who the Doctor was. It's like, that was not explained in this. How does he know him?
Huh.
So, yeah.
Now, is that an IDW? Is that who does?
No. It is Titan.
Titan now? Titan has it now, because IDW used to have it, right? Yeah. They have the licensing to do those? Huh. Yeah. I may have to check some of those out. If they're one and dones, I may have to check those out.
Yeah, the 11th Doctor ones, they're one and dones. So far, the other series is not. It's a story arc.
Cool. I picked up issue number 1 of Men of Wrath.
I looked at that, and I was like, ooh, Jason Aaron, and then I was like, wait, I'm already getting a new number 1 this week, which, coincidentally, done by Jason Aaron, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got this, and that's why I got it, because Jason Aaron. I love his other independent stuff. Huge fan of Scalp. I'm really liking Southern Bastards now, so I thought, well, I'll give this a shot. I think it's 6 issues. It's going to be, interestingly, it's under the Icon imprint from Marvel. So I found that curious. I liked it. I mean, this was all kind of set up. You get to see just how awful of a guy what seems to be the main character is. This character here. He is a hitman, and he kills anybody and everybody. It does not matter. I mean, he pitches a baby in a car seat into a lake by page 4 of this thing. He's executed. Put bags over the parents. No. Put bags over the parents' head and makes them run out into the deep end of the lake and then shoots them. And then he's walking away, and the baby starts crying. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." And the next thing you see is the part of the baby seat going bloop under the water, and the baby's crying, snuffing away. So yeah, the guy is hardcore. His name is Wrath, R-A-T-H, so play on words, the Men of Wrath. So you get the setup that he is this obviously hard-boiled killer. You get some back history that he's from a long line of killers back in way back days in Alabama. One of the great-great-grandfathers stabbed a guy in the neck over some sheep, and ever since then, every generation of Wrath has gotten a little bit meaner, and then you get to this dude, and obviously he's killing babies, so he's obviously a pretty badass. You find out he's dying of cancer in it. He gets diagnosed with cancer, doesn't seem too pleased with the fact that he's dying of cancer. You also get the impression that he's the only person that's lived long enough to die of anything like that most of the rest of the family dies much earlier on, considering what their livelihood is, being a hitman. He lives out in the middle of nowhere. He's got drawers full of money that he's not spending, and the guy that he normally gets jobs from shows up to hire him from a job, or goes, I really should be hiring somebody else, but I'm going to hire you. And he's been hired to kill his son. And that's kind of where the story is left at, with this badass guy who seems to not blink an eye at whoever he's told to kill. Now suddenly his target is his son, and he has shown up on the son's doorstep. The son knows he's in some sort of trouble, that he's pissed off the wrong people, but we have no idea what's he going to do. I'm assuming he's not just going to whack his kid, but how does that all play out? I mean, is this going to be a story of some sort of redemption of him deciding that even though he's been this hitman all this time, this is the one person he's not going to kill, and instead he's going to take out the people that come to get him. I don't know if it's going to be that straightforward or not. Wasn't a bad issue. I'll probably get the rest. Usually there aren't lots of surprises in the first issue, but with Jason Aaron stuff, by the time you get into 2 or 3, awesome stuff starts happening. So it's been pretty good. But brutal. It says mature content on it, and no joke. I mean, like I said, when they're killing babies, and they are subtly killing babies and whatnot. So it's pretty.
Yeah, I might have to get that in trade then. It sounds interesting, but it also sounds like something that I really wouldn't particularly enjoy in singles. I'd want it to be just like one and done.
Right, get it done with. It might be a painful crawl, that's for sure. I also picked up Names, issue number 2 of Names. I was kind of on the fence about when we talked about issue number 1 of this. I really liked this issue. This issue felt like, okay, now we've got some organized stuff going on. They have a game plan of sorts. She's trying to track down the people that are potentially killed off her husband in this. There's more interaction with the stepson, who's still coming across really weird. He has way more information than she feels like he should have. I guess Dad would sometimes go to visit the stepson and get really drunk and just kind of talk about all kinds of stuff and get into his relationship with his younger wife, which I think feeds the stepson's seeming desires for the stepmom. At one point in here, he literally is describing almost blow by blow their entire honeymoon, including what kind of panties she was wearing, which she's like, okay, hold on a second. In this relationship, there are things we're not going to talk about, and my panties are one of those things we're not going to talk about, which is a pretty funny line. But she's a kick-ass, pretty kick-ass brutal character. She has no qualms of hunting down whoever she needs to and beat them up to get the information to. The art in this issue is really, really strong. They use lots of negative white spaces for some of the instead of using blacks to shadow stuff, they use white, which just comes across really sharp in this in this issue. So it just made for some really kind of cool. Well, it feels like Vertigo art. I mean, it feels like a Vertigo book. As she continues to hunt down these people that call themselves the Names, that are manipulating the stock markets. Still not 100% sure that it's all about the stock markets. There may be some greater picture going on as she's trying to hunt down the clues because the husband has left clues throughout their history that she needs to go back and rediscover to figure out what he got himself into. So this issue, like I said, was better. It was hard to see. And that's it for my indie books. Anybody else got any other indie books?
Nope.
Cool. And I don't have anything in the independent world wise to talk about, I guess. So let's move right into Marvel. What books do we read in Marvel?
Thor.
So I'm the one that didn't get the new Thor book.
And Sleepy did. That's why I was kind of, just wondering what he thought. It was definitely a strong take on where it's going to go. I mean, they start with, I believe Roxanne is found an energy source, is what they call it. I believe it's from the Thor last issue, the 500 or whatever issue it was, that it was the skull of Laufey, Loki's father. And because it's in this one, they got frost giants under the water and they're invading this group. They cut to Thor on the moon, and he's not able to pick up his hammer. And Odin's like, "Well, son, sometimes you're just, I don't know what Nick Fury whispered in your ear, but evidently you're not worthy." And Odin goes to pick it up, and Odin can no longer pick it up either. And they say that the enchantment has maybe now gotten more powerful than the enchanter. And I definitely thought that was a good idea, that now the hammer has more of a sense of worthiness. The artist who did this, I can't see who it is right now. Dodderman, is that who that is?
I think so, yeah.
All right. I love his drawing of Malekith, the Accursed. the look of that dark elf, the sparkles, the strong contrast of the burnt half and the good half.
Mhm.
I think that's a wonderful depiction of it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it looked really like good. Like it's different than what I thought it was going to be. I
Yeah.
liked it.
The parts that start to get interesting is, I mean, almost all this is still old Thor, and like he walks away from trying to lift his hammer. I think he finally realizes, he's not going to do it, and he says he's going to go to the armory and then he's going to go home. And they go, well, at least he's going to Asgard. No, he gets an axe and he heads to Earth. And his dad's like, well, how's he going to do that? He can't fly. Molinar is what allows him to fly. And then they show him a picture of him on Tooth Grinder or
All
Nail
right.
Biter. I don't remember which of his two goats it is. But I mean, so that's how he's traveling now, and it's that awesome picture of that flailing goat. I mean, every comic needs a good goat in it.
Oh, hell yeah.
What I was not expecting is these giants get the upper hand on Thor, and you see them hold him out, hold him up. The giant grabs a hold of him, and Malekith says, "You no longer need, you no more need for so many cumbersome arms, because he doesn't need to lift Molinar." And Malekith removes one of Thor's arms with an axe, and then
Oh.
just lets him float away. I definitely did not see that coming. That was powerful, and it even
Yeah.
took a couple times. I saw the picture of his arm and then the bloody body floating away, and it really, I kept going. I'm like, did that happen? I mean, is that really what they're trying to tell me in these pictures?
Mhm.
And then, at the very end, you just see the hand pick it up, and if she is worthy, and then you get the picture of the new female Thor.
But so you don't know who that is, though.
No, she grabs it, she becomes Thor, and boom, that's it.
So some random chick is walking around Asgard and scoops up the hammer and.
The moon, the moon.
Oh, the moon.
That's where it's sitting.
Okay. Huh. So any guesses as to who it is?
I have no idea. Like, no one who was in the immediate area of when the spectacle of Odin trying to pick up the hammer and getting really pissy about it, not like lifting. No one around there looked like that. No one was like, I don't know.
So it's not like
It has to be
Valkyrie
something
or
that
something
can
like
breathe in
that. Huh?
space.
No, and there's been questions. I think they said that there was some other art with like the Avengers where you see both Valkyrie and the new Thor, and there was some other questions. I mean, I think it's going to come out of left field who it is, unless it's Sif and her hair turns gold. But the Warriors 3 all tried to lift it. They can't lift it. So it shows, I think, that several people tried to lift it while they were there.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm going to just enjoy it and wait and see how this goes with it. But I really feel it's also like Hawkeye, where you got Kurt and Kate. And I'm worried that it's going to be the comic is going to be
You can hear
Thor,
both stories.
Odin's son, and the other half is new Thor, Lady Thor. Or they'll do a couple issues her, a couple more issues him. That's where I'm starting to get worried.
And you think that would be a bad thing? You don't want to see both stories. You don't want to see one-armed Thor wandering around trying to figure out what the hell he's going to do with his life now that he's not the Thor.
Yeah, because he's going to be in all the other Avenger stuff. From what I saw, there's other pictures of him in other Avengers groups with the axe and the his new look. That's like old beat up Thor or whatever. Not with missing an arm, so that's another thing that caught me off guard. So it'll be interesting to see how all that comes out.
Didn't old Thor in the Thor God of Thunder run, didn't he have a metal arm?
Yes, I do believe you're correct. So I mean, maybe
I didn't read all of that, but I do remember. Like, I did read that first story arc. I remember the metal arm, so I was like,
the All Father Thor. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting, but I mean, that was the thing about Hawkeye. I enjoyed some of the issues, but I was ready for it to switch from Kurt to Kate. You know, if Kate is now Hawkeye, she's now Hawkeye. You know, let Kurt go off and do whatever else. Let him be this mystery shield agent or whatever. But you know, once Kate is Hawkeye, she's Hawkeye. You know, and
Right.
that's how I think. That's always how I felt that this should progress. I do feel the Falcon should be Captain America. I do feel there should be a new Thor. I think that's better than trying to relaunch a storyline, you know, every 20 years or keep kicking out these new number ones every 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Cool. It
But I'm
sounds
also
cool. The whole delimiting of Thor. That sounds interesting and whatnot. And not knowing even issue 1, not knowing who Thor is going to end up being. I'm curious to find out who that is. I mean, part of me wants to read the book, but part of me doesn't too. So that's why I didn't pick it up.
Yeah, there was a news article that I posted on Twitter because they talked about, the writer says, it's not a gimmick. It's not, when Avengers comes out, it's not going to be Chris Helmsworth in the, we're not worried about the movies and the comic changing, So he says it's not a 1-year deal, that it's a long planned out idea that she will be Thor, but on the movies, it still will be Chris Helmsworth. The two will not have to interact that way. But then again, I mean, there's still the regular Thor Odinson. So, I mean, it still can easily fall in there. It's just like Clint Barton and Kate. So,
yeah.
But they say she's going to be around for a couple years now. So, I'm waiting to see if that actually holds true.
Well, I hope they stick to that if that's the case. I mean, I'm sure they can tell some interesting stories, with somebody else, a fresh face being Thor. That's cool. Yeah. I'm not a big Thor fan, I guess, is my reasoning for not picking it up. So
I am, and that's why I put my money into it.
Sure.
Where my mouth was. I want to support this. The artwork, I love the artwork, and like we said, with Malekith, I love the look of him. All of the artwork looked nice in there, and also because I wasn't going to spend the $5 to find out who Captain America was, since I know, I figured I'd just go with the Thor.
What? He didn't get this?
No,
Come on,
no.
How did you know who that was?
Yeah, the bird outline behind him. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay, the one funny thing about this is when it gets to the whole, a bunch of stuff happens. They get towards the end of the book, and Steve Rogers calls all the Avengers together. I mean, if you've ever been an Avenger, ever in your life, I mean, here's, Rogue. Here's Rogue down here, the Beast. So if you've ever, the Thing, if you've ever been an Avenger, everybody's invited, and Steve Rogers, says he's retiring because obviously he's an old geezer, so he's not going to wear the colors anymore. He's just going to be a tactician, blah blah blah, whatever. But this is who's taking over as Captain America, and of course it's the Falcon, wearing his new costume, which whatever, I don't really care for. But he shows up, and it's like, and he says, "You guys aren't even surprised, are you?" I mean, why did I get all dressed up? I thought it was funny. I mean, it really felt like the writer was going, okay, yeah, I know you knew, so we're going to write it that way, like it was not a surprise. So that part was funny. Yeah, it was $4.99. It was extra pages, but it's a lot of extra pages, large chunks of it. The second half of the book, like 4 pages. Joke. It was dumb. It was dumb dialogue. There was no point in it. So I thought that was unfortunate. The whole transition. Yeah, here's the new costume.
And I could see it's a little too many mergings of the same outfit.
Right.
The progressive look. It's like, yeah, we get it. He's Captain America.
Right. Yeah. So whatever. I mean, I don't know who's going to buy into him being Captain America. I mean, his working people that work with him will call him Captain America because they know that's what they're supposed to do. But is the person on the street going to go, oh, look, it's Captain America? I don't know. I would think they look at it and go, hey, aren't you the guy that was the Falcon?
Yeah.
Not that anybody's going to complain because they do a good job of explaining. Last issue, he flew up into the sky with this bomb and he blew up, and you think, well, he's dead. He comes falling back down to Earth. Iron Man catches him before he goes splat. They think he's all, that he's probably dead or whatever. They're lamenting about what a great guy he was and everything. Well, he's not dead because somewhere along the way, he got his wings remade out of vibranium or whatever. Iron Man, Tony Stark made him a new set. So that took the brunt of the bomb instead of him taking the brunt. He could use the wings to basically bounce most of the blast off. That's how they explain him not dying. But he gets billed as being this big, big hero and whatnot, and they did a good job of that. They do a good job of chasing off the character that I liked most in the book. So Jet, she has it out. She has it out with her father. I'm not going back with you. And the father keeps saying, look, I didn't follow through with my plan because I love you and I didn't want to blow up the world while you were still standing on it. But these people are going to hate you because you're a Zola. They're never ever going to really trust you. And she's like, that's not true. They like me. And she runs off to go and help find out whether or not the Falcon's dead and all that kind of stuff, because she's basically has a relationship with the Falcon.
Yeah.
She gets to them and she's happy that he's not dead and hugging him and whatnot. And of course, Steve Rogers' girlfriend Sharon, she's back. She claims that Jet Black has always been evil. She's been like a mole, been Zola's mole. She doesn't trust her, and so they all start questioning whether or not she's legit or not. Even Steve Rogers goes, even Captain America goes, well, we need to put you into custody. I know you're not a bad guy, but we need to put you in restraints right now until we have it figured out. And she's like, bullshit. You're not put. Pretty much they act exactly how Zola said he said they would act. So she gets pissed off and kind of smacks him around and runs off. And she runs and gets on the ship with Dad and disappears with Dad at the last moment.
All right.
So. And that's the character I liked most in the book. Now she's not in it. There's really no reason for me to keep reading it. I haven't been as excited by the whole Captain America now anyway.
Did they switch writers then? Or
do they what?
Did they switch writers? Is it the same person writing?
No, still Remender. Remender's still writing it. And they're just starting over with a new #1 because, of course, there's a new Captain America. So logically, let's put out a #1 because everybody's going to buy it because it's the new Captain America #1. So they have some Hydra stuff at the very end, epilogue at the end of it, which talks about some Hydra stuff. There's a secret group of Hydra people. There seems to be somebody who's part of the Avengers that's one of them, but they don't show us really who it is. But was that this Avengers party where they named the new Captain America? They infer that the new Captain America is weak and that he can be easily manipulated, unlike Steve Rogers. So they think they've got an in now to do some sneaky Hydra stuff, whatever that means. But I won't be finding out because I don't plan on picking it up at this point. Or if I do, it won't be in singles. If I hear lots of great stuff about it, I may pick up the first trade of the next run just to see if it carried on with some of the stuff I did like about the book, or if it goes off someplace else different completely.
Well, that makes sense because they're going to make the trades. I mean, that's the one thing about the big two. So.
Sure. And Marvel seems to be pretty consistent about putting out their trades, so it's not like I'll be waiting for forever for it. So, unlike DC has a bad habit of not being consistent and putting their trades out.
All right.
Any other Marvel books?
I got one more.
Yep.
Moon Knight. I still get it.
Cool.
And it's almost exactly the same as the Warren Ellis stuff. It's the art is different, but it's still done by Jordi Belair. The coloring. Greg Smallwood, I think, does a good job of. He does a great job of drawing like the landscapes, and the way Moon Knight looks is almost the same as the as Declan Shalvey. It's not exactly the same. It's not going to be. They're different people, but it's still very much like that. It's still got that kind of odd like layout of. Like just the way the story is told, it's kind of odd, but it's still good. This issue was like it seemed like it was like televised, kind of. It wasn't, but everything was in like certain order, and it had like him talking. It went through all three of his multiple personality disorder. It went through all three of his of them, and he told the guy he was talking to, was like the police chief dude, or maybe not chief, but he's like, call my doctor, basically. and he's explained that he has multiple personalities, and that each time he like says, oh no, it's me now, not to be like freaked out or whatever. That's how it is. It's weird. It's still just as weird as the Warren Ellis stuff. And the return of the giant bird head.
Oh, cool.
At the end.
Whatever that avatar or whatever the heck it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's kind of bitching at him for doing what he did, because he was particularly brutal. Like, he just straight up like beat the shit out of the guy who was holding all these people hostage. He was the story is he infiltrates this building trying to save these hostages, and not all the police knew about him, and so now it's that standard, oh god, superheroes, vigilante justice, we shouldn't allow that, and all that. It's the same story that's always played out, but it's a different take on it, I think. And just the giant bird avatar skull is like bitching at him about showing everyone. But it's interesting. It's actually developing the story instead of just, right, here's this, never going to reference it again.
Which is what those first, 6 issues kind of did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wondered about that. So they are kind of starting to knit it all together a little bit tighter as far as... Cool. Yeah, I jumped off of it when the creative team shifted. I may go back and grab the next set in trade, because I keep hearing from everybody that's still reading it that it hasn't I mean, it's different obviously because it's got different creators on it, but they're keeping the same tone with the book, and that's one of the things I really did like about it. I liked that tone of the book of him popping out the different
layout's still very similar with
sure.
And there's this really that way. It's a weird costume. It's another one of his personalities, and it's
that's
the one
of his costumes. Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's the one where he's brutal and murders a dude. He just beats the shit out of this guy. Like, it's not like I'm holding back. No, he just beats the shit out of him. So.
Unnecessarily so, huh? Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting, because we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that costume before, right? That's new.
Yeah, that's new.
It looked like your Sundowners guy.
It did. It looked kind of like Joe Citizen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Well, I may have to go back to picking it, because I like the Moon Knight character. I always have. I haven't. My problem is I haven't enjoyed any superhero books written by Brian Wood. I like his independent stuff where he just does his own thing with his own voice. I enjoy that stuff, but I've tried his X-Men, I've tried some of his Ultimate stuff. I have not liked anything that he has written superhero-wise. And so hearing that he was going to be on, I was like, I don't even want to venture off into it, but it sounds like this might be okay.
Yeah,
maybe because...
It's a lot like Warren Ellis. It's like
very few words, mostly him saying very little narrative, mostly just the pictures. The art is what's telling us what's happening.
Yeah. And it not exactly that this issue. Like, there was actually quite a bit of dialogue for once, because in those the pages I showed you, he is talking to do some kind of some communication thing to this policeman. He's talking to him the whole time, but they're not using the whole page for the art, so they've got it on the sides while he's doing it, and it's very much. It feels like there wasn't much of a bump in the change.
Excellent. So. I mean, like I said, I may have to go back and hunt him down and look at what issue is that?
That was 8. Yes,
8.
That just came out on Wednesday.
So 3 issues. I could probably hunt those down. I may have to do that, because, like I said, I like the character, and I liked if they're kind of following forward with what it felt like the first group were doing with how they placed the character and his personalities and that sort of stuff. was really digging that. So cool.
What did Woods write for the Ultimates?
He wrote. Was it X-Men that he wrote there too? I'm trying to remember.
Did he write Ultimate X-Men?
I thought it was Ultimate X-Men he wrote for a while.
It sounds familiar. I don't read any Ultimate Universe stuff.
Him, and then like Nick Spencer wrote it. Then I think it was. I think it was X-Men. I don't think it was Avengers.
All right, I read quite a bit of the Ultimate Universe, but I didn't do X-Men. I just didn't care for that X-Men either. So
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was X-Men, and that that's been I think a couple of years ago now.
Oh,
but yeah, I think I think he was writing that for a while, and of course did 2 runs on the adjectiveless X-Men. When it's not uncanny, it's just straight X-Men. He did 2 runs on that, and I tried both of those and didn't enjoy most of what I read there. So. Can't remember if there was anybody in our superhero, but it seems like anytime I've tried anything of his superhero-wise, I've not enjoyed it. But I've always liked his independent work, his DMZ, his Northlanders, Massive. I've liked all that stuff. So logically, I kept thinking I should like something he has to say. With I don't know, but the corporate stuff, I guess, just doesn't match up well. So haven't gotten any of it. So any others?
Nope.
I picked up this trade. I haven't read it yet. I got this week. It's an independent book. It is Tag. This is the deluxe edition. Whatever. It's just another. it's a trade. Written by Geffen. Art by Chamberlain. Basic concept of it. Like I said, I haven't read it yet. But a guy comes home from like the airport or whatever. He's been like on a long work. Time. He comes home to his family. He starts decaying. He finds out that he's dead. Not that he's dying, but that he is dead, and he's decaying and slowly falling apart. And he's basically been tagged, and he figures out that he's got a choice now. Does he live with this eternity of being zombie and slowly digressing as being a zombie, or does he pass it on to somebody else? He could make the choice to make somebody else carry the curse, and then the curse is lifted from him. I don't know if that means he dies then afterwards. I have no idea because, like I said, I haven't read it yet. But it sounded interesting. I didn't realize that Keith Giffen had done any independent work. I'm only familiar with him doing work for the big 2, so I was kind of curious as far as that goes. Just for people who don't know, Geffen is one of the main people that's writing. He's writing the Future's End, that weekly book. He's on that. He's also helping. He's plotting Justice League 3000. He's I think he's helping script Forever People or whatever, or doing something with Forever People also. But been doing lots of work, and I like a lot of his work, so I thought I would give this a shot to see what it's like. So I'm sure at some point I will come back and talk about it. But anything else we want to talk about? Nothing going on special with Marvel, really, is there?
No.
I didn't watch a second issue of Shield. Has it been out yet?
Yeah, I saw it, and it was all right. I mean, Lucy Lawless is dead from when she touched that thing. Yeah.
They cut her arm off, and that wasn't good enough, huh?
Well, yeah, because it was only one guy out of the group who they were able to save, and it's all this intrigue is what they're trying to do. So the one mercenary is supposed to set up Coulson in his group, but he really just wants to kill the Absorbing Man. So it's all lying to you, lying to me, just so I can get what I want. It's all right. I mean, if you're a Marvel fan, like I watched it, it was all right. It's running vanilla. You enjoy it because it's ice cream, but it's still vanilla ice cream. So
yeah,
I love vanilla ice cream.
Well, there you go. All right, sorry.
Okay with that, yeah. Okay, well, cool. Any other burning things we want to talk about, comics-wise? We'll call it a night. Well, thanks for coming and talking talking comics, and thanks again to Damien for being on and whatnot. Yeah, see, Matt Hammer is telling suddenly my comments, now that we're quitting, my comments are suddenly showing up. Matt Hammer says that Brian Wood did write the Ultimate X-Men. That was the one that they wrote. Anyway, thank you guys all for coming on and talking comics with me. Come back anytime. Hope to see more of you, Devin, back talking books with us and whatnot.
Yeah.
Hopefully we didn't bore you too bad with just me and Damien talking lots of DC Comics, now that we're back reading lots of DC Comics again. But and thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Those of you who tuned in tonight and watched us live, and anybody who watches us down the road. I don't think we set any records tonight of talking for 3+ hours like we did last week. That was probably a bit much, but people said they enjoyed it, so there you go. Anyway, have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you back again next week. Good night, all.